Hey everyone, welcome back to Pine Hollow Auto Diagnostics. It's a beautiful weekend night and we have an interesting case study that rolled up to the shop. A 2002 Dodge Dakota with a 4.7 liter V8. Yes, they stuffed a V8 in this little truck. So it freaking goes. Customer complaint. He said he's been having transmission problems. It was shifting kind of rough. Surging. Just took it for a test drive. Verified the customer complaint. Indeed, there's definitely something going on. So let's jump inside, get on the scanner, see if we can pull some codes, make heads or tails out of this thing. Now we got the Veris fired up. California emissions model, automatic with AC. Let's see, key on. We got 104,000 miles. Read some codes. Oh, no codes present. Interesting. One trip. P0300. Interesting. And secondary indicators, no codes. Let's just for kicks go back to the transmission menu. Also no codes present. Interesting. So the only thing we have to go by here is the P0300. But again, codes aren't everything. So let's start it up. I'll take it for a test drive. I already did actually take it just around the block. Verify the customer complaint. And look at some data. That's all we can do for now. So under the engine menu, first I want to take a look at the misfire counters. I didn't really feel, any misfires, but we can still take a look at that real quick. It's under system tests, misfire counters. Let's fire this thing up. Okay, so it's running pretty smooth now. We have all zeros here. Looks good. Now when I first got in it, the idle RPM was kind of bouncing up and down, like 1500, 1000. Now it's steady at, 600. Before it was not. Let's just take a look at the data. Generic data list, see if there's anything out of the ordinary there. So we got RPM, desired RPM, rock steady, 600 RPM. It's where it wants to be. You rev it up a little bit. Freaking sounds mean. See, okay, I'm not touching the gas pedal anymore. Look what the RPMs are doing. Yeah, it's doing it on its own. Whee! It's just a really erratic idle. And when I was on the test drive, when I felt the transmission shift hard was when you're kind of coasting, slowing down, it was like boom, boom, jerk. Real light throttle, also kind of surging back and forth. So, this stuff right here, that was the truck doing that. There it goes again. See the RPM? It just like went up and down. TPS. What is going on here? Look at this TPS voltage. I'm not touching the gas pedal. It is going between 0.6, 0.7, 0.75. I don't like that. That's a clue, I think, to our problem. I mean, it should be, see right there? The truck was running perfect. RPMs were, you know, steady. Now when this crap starts happening, RPMs go up and down. Desired idle does not change. Minimum TPS, so whenever your foot's off the gas, the TPS should read 0.63, rock steady, no questions asked. Our TPS is all over the place. Let's see, what else do we want to look at? So keep in mind the actual TPS physical position of the throttle plate is not changing. This is just a regular throttle cable. It's not like the computer is commanding the throttle on and off, but the RPMs are going up and down. What does that mean? That means that the idle air control valve, I think, is compensating for this weird up and down TPS reading, perhaps. But the only data pit we have that deals with the idle air control valve is this target IAC, and that is also very steady at, you know, 44 to 45. It's not going up and down that much. So I think, okay, that went to 39. There you go, 39, 45. Okay, so yeah, we definitely see a, you know, it's not steady. It's trying to control the idle. And that's our inconsistency. Came to visit. Are you done watching your horse race?
I'm tired. That was a great day.
Oh my gosh. Triple crown for the win, right?
Triple crown, justified. I hope everybody got to see it live. It was awesome. That's a lot cleaner now. It's a great day.
You're more excited about horses than I am.
I have to admit I am.
I'm more excited about cars that do this.
Good luck. Good luck. Oh boy. Bye.
Bye. So cute. Where were we? Yeah. So TPS, look, IAC is down to 25 now. All on its own. It just steadied out. What could be causing that? Well, what are the options? Bad TPS sensor, sure. 5-volt reference problem, possibly. Bad ground, or something is interrupting the, you know, the clean 5-volt reference, like ignition coils, alternator. Could be anything. Like right now, it's running perfect, just like rock steady. Look at that. Clean. IAC is down to 22. Our idle's at 600. And I'll save that for reference. So, one thing we can do is look at another sensor. Let's say, you know, coolant temperature. It looks rock steady again. None of this up and down like the TPS had. Let's just try another one here. Oh, intake air temp. Again, also very stable. Okay, we have IAC steps. That's what we want. We don't want target. We want the actual idle air control valve. So there's definitely responding to something. I think it's responding to TPS. So step on the gas a little bit. See the IAC jumps up. It's preparing for a decel. And right now I'm keeping a very steady throttle, and look what the TPS is doing. All on its own. And the idle air control valve is bumping it up. The idle is elevated now because our minimum TPS does not match, you know, what was learned. This thing's all over the place. So just by looking at the data, I think we have a very good lead on what the problem is here. What we have to do now is actually get the oscilloscope out and verify at this TPS sensor 5-volt reference, ground, and actual signal, and see what's going on. So no code stored, truck runs like crap, computers, you know, can only do so much. They can only report actual problems. Like if you unplug the TPS, obviously you're going to get a circuit code, but if it's giving a false reading, computer doesn't know any better, so it thinks you're pressing the throttle a little bit, even though physically the throttle plate is in one position, so you get all kinds of oscillations. I think that's pretty neat. So let's get the scope out and verify this TPS reading. Before we get too far back probing, I just want to do a little tap test. Yeah, I'm definitely changing something here. Alright, let's back probe it. Alright, we've got our Oscilloscope hooked up. We've got the tablet out. I'm on the first wire on the TPS here. 3-wire sensor, easy to get to. And first thing, let's drop our voltage scales down to plus or minus 10 volts. And that looks like a good ground to me. Zero it out. I mean, obviously you see some noise, but if we pause it, zoom in on it, that is at 0. I mean, we can put a little cursor on it, like 20 millivolts. That's fine. And next wire will be our signal. Here it goes, here it goes. So what's the scale here? We can even drop the scale down to plus or minus 5 volt. Haven't used a pico in a while. So we have that noise, we can put a filter on here. Let's do a low pass filter. And it filters after it records. So tap, tap, tap. There it goes. Now it's kind of noisy, so it's hard to pick out what is going on. You can drop the time base down a little bit here. With such a small voltage change, we can drop our scale down even more, plus or minus 1 volt. And then our time base we can bump up so we can kind of see a longer trend. So for stuff like this, there's your filtered waveform. It's definitely going up and down, you know, 0.6 to 0.8. But the real-time data obviously have a lot of noise, so it's hard to pick it out. Bump, bump, bump. There it goes, up and down. So that's filtered data. We're going from, you know, 0.68, and up here we were at Oh, come on. You see the ignition spikes in there too. But the computer filters all that out. Like right here, we were at 0.73. So it thinks your foot's on the gas and adjusting the idle air control valve. So that's proof. That's good proof. Let's do the last wire check. The 5-volt reference. Roll the scope. Now we need to go up to our plus or minus 10 volt scale. Let's go bump, bump, bump. And that 5-volt reference should not go anywhere. So it should be, you know, steady at, I guess it's 5.25 here. Let's see, it's not going up and down at all, even though the truck is surging up and down. So that's it. I am ready to call this TPS sensor and pop it off. I don't know if they're serviceable, probably not. We'll just get a new one, even though I like rebuilding parts. Yeah, so that's it. I guess the case study was, at first the symptoms were kind of a little more interesting than just the TPS sensor, but again, the approach, no codes, look at data, see something out of the ordinary, and you know, go from there. One last thing I want to do is shut the truck off and see what the TPS does when it's not running. So you could see our data. Those are the surges right there. The IAC was going nuts due to our TPS signal being high, so whenever it's elevated above the min, IAC jumps up, and so on. So again, save that for reference. Let's go exit out of here, off, on, data. So now we're just purely interested in the TPS voltage. I'm going to do a sweep. So real light all the way to the floor and all the way back down. And I released it. Let's do a custom list so we get faster faster data transfer, because we want to see the glitches. Custom, deselect all, we just want TPS voltage, and zoom in on that, see how much faster the line's moving there. So right now I'm not touching the throttle, and you can see what's happening. Our real-time value is steadied out, but okay, I just literally tapped the throttle. I didn't push it down. That TPS is extremely inaccurate at idle, at closed throttle. So that's what's going on when the truck's running, and the computer is just like, whoa, our throttle's going up and down. So all the way to the floor. I don't see any glitches throughout the rest of the throttle range. But as we get down to, you know, that 0.8 marker, look at that, 0.55. We've never seen anything that low. And my foot's not even off the throttle. And now it's fully off the throttle. And it actually went higher. That's not supposed to happen. And when you just barely touch the throttle, it's like all over the place. Right at that very end of the TPS travel. So that's enough evidence for me to call the sensor. Don't want to, you know, go overboard here, but see if we can order one and we'll pop it in. All right, got the air tube off, the resonance chamber. Let's unplug our TPS, and it looks like it's just 2 Torx screws, which hopefully are friendly to come out. I was hoping the TPS would be adjustable. We could just adjust it to you know, be higher than that dead spot, and then the computer would learn the new value. But it looks like this thing is not adjustable, and you can't really rip it apart, so we are gonna have to get a new one. While we're here, might as well take some good old-fashioned brake clean and clean out the throttle body. Why not? It helped on the Buick, right? Yeah, this one's not too awfully dirty, but still good thing to do. So once we get the new TPS in, everything should work really, really nicely. Sweet. That's it. You're not gonna believe me. The truck, it freaking runs perfect now. I went online, ordered a new OEM sensor. I was just gonna drive back to the neighbor's place here so it doesn't take up room in my small lot, and it drove perfect. I'm like, well, what the heck? It's supposed to act up. I took it around the block. I mean, it's smooth, super powerful, like runs like a top. It didn't hiccup at all. So what's the deal? I don't think a TPS sensor that was that wonky could fix itself and then stay fixed for, you know, however, you know, 20 minutes of driving. So I think what happened is it wasn't the sensor itself that was bad. It was actual, like, small corrosion on the contacts, like terminal fretting. So I think all we need to do here is unplug it, spray some deoxit on the terminals, plug it back in, verify with the scanner that everything is steady, there's no, you know, noise in the TPS signal, and ship this thing. And I guess I'll have to return my sensor to Rock Auto. So let's try that and get this thing done. I swear, sometimes cars just amaze me. See, I told you guys we'd fix it with no parts required. I mean, the terminals look mint. What about the pins on the... I don't know. It's just... That's it. So I'm going to do... plug that sucker back in. Let's get the scanner out. Alrighty, here we go. Start up. Nice and steady. Look at our data. TPS volts 0.53. Right, you know, that's steady right now. RPMs. What do we want? Min TPS 0.53. Look at that beautiful flat line. And we also want our counts for the IAC, 27 steps. That's reasonable. And I think that's it. So I'm going to step on the gas, give it a couple snaps. It comes right back down to 0.53. That was it. It was poor terminal contact. Absolutely, 100% confirmed. We have no more noise on the TPS. That's really cool. I like it. So when we're back probing the connector from the back side, you know, we touched the ground pin and that was fine. However, at the sensor, I think the ground may have been a little not good, elevated, and the signal was just too high. It was never a 0.53. It was like at 0.7, 0.8. Confirmed fix. No parts required. Just like we wanted. That's the Pine Hollow Auto Diagnostics way, right? that's really cool. We can shut the truck off, turn it back on. Do a sweep test with the gas pedal. Right back down to that number, absolutely no noise. That's awesome. Fire it up. Oh, look, it learned the minimum TPS right there. Now the IAC counts are dropping until the idle stabilizes at whatever it wants. About 600 RPM. It's a V8, you know. You can idle that low real smooth. I like it. So with that, appreciate everyone watching. I hope you guys learned something new. The approach to diagnosing this problem was, I think, you know, did just the right thing, looking at data, the codes that were not helpful, and yeah, the truck is fixed. That's what we want. No parts required. The customer is going to be really happy about that. Transmission, you know, doesn't need a new transmission, doesn't need coils or plugs or anything. It just needed one connector clean. That's it, to explain that big of a drivability problem. Thanks a lot for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye. So, final thought here on the Dodge truck TPS case study. What's the lesson? The big lesson here? Collect the data before touching anything. Don't unplug anything. Don't wiggle the wires. You need to collect the data. Just like Keith DeFazio from New Level Auto preaches to us, just look. Keep your hands in your pockets. Observe. Without that, we might not have even found the problem or been 100%, you know, accurate in repairing this truck. So with that, have a good night, and I'll see y'all later. Bye-bye.